It is exactly 1 week since the Supreme Court ruling on the presidential petition, and the country is looking forward to the swearing in of Kenya's fourth president, slated for Tuesday, 9th of April, and thereafter the naming of his cabinet. But just who are the men and women who will make it to the Jubilee Coalition's cabinet list? What criteria really will the president-elect and his deputy use to choose these people? This is the big question tonight for the Jubilee Coalition, as their party members in Nyanza and Western express discomfort over a leaked list of possible cabinet members. Also in our coverage tonight, we will tell you why you should not rule out Raila Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka from the political scene just yet. Plans are underway to ensure that they remain politically relevant in the next 5 years. That is, if their party members will agree to a skillfully crafted strategy. Let's stay with that cabinet story, where a lot of people have lots of expectations, and bring in Ferdinand Omondi, who is our coast reporter. Ferdi, looking at this cabinet and the expectations really from the people at the coast, what can we look forward to?
Good evening, Linda. Here in the Coast region is that time of the political season when you give back for the support you received. This area voted overwhelmingly for the Court Coalition, but that doesn't mean that there were no Jubilee diehards. They were there, and they probably lost their political lifelines here because they supported the Jubilee Coalition. So they will be expecting fully that they will be rewarded by being given a senior post that will give them some sort of competitiveness back here in the Coast region, so that they can remain relevant in the next 5 years.
Fadi, that is a discussion I look forward to having with you in just a few minutes, of course. Who is expected to take these seats and why? You're watching KTN Saturday Night Live. Let's take a look at the top stories tonight.
So we are optimistic that more good things are coming. We don't expect to be sidelined.
Rais wote alisema ako na keki kubwa. Tunataka kujua hii keki tutapata kiasi gani?
Tough balancing act, Uhuru's cabinet challenge. Tightening the cord, what next for Raila and Kalonzo?
Kinyesha barabara hata kwa kuelekea kwa DC na drainage ya town yote ni mbaya sana.
Hope for the counties, governors get down to business. And what's in a shell? Just ask this Tortoise trader. Many thanks for joining us. I'm Linda Ogutu. Now, a momentous week lies ahead for Kenyans as they await the swearing in of the fourth president and the naming of a new lean cabinet of 22. However, it is a tough balancing act for the president-elect and his deputy as they attempt to form an inclusive government incorporating allies who lost on March 4th. Aspirants from former Western and Nyanza provinces who campaigned under the Jubilee Alliance have appealed to Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto to form an all-inclusive government that should take into consideration those who stood by the coalition during the concluded elections. Patrick Amimo starts our bulletin tonight with Jubilee's cabinet headache.
President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President-elect William Ruto are expected to have their cabinet ready by Wednesday next week. There is a heightened lobbying by those who lost the elections to be appointed in cabinet and or other plum government jobs. Uhuru and Ruto's headache will be how to reward some close allies like Charity Ngilu, Najib Balala, Chirau Mwakwere, Professor Sam Ongeri, Robinson Githai and Samuel Poisio, who campaigned under the Jubilee Alliance but lost. And even before the task of forming a cabinet is done, politicians from Luo Nyanza who vied for the positions of governor, senator and national assembly are pushing for consideration.
He has just nominated one of the youngest women senator from our region. So we are optimistic that more good things are coming. We don't expect to be sidelined.
Luo Nyanza is not in the opposition. There is a party, or there are parties that are in the opposition.
They are concerned that some politicians who campaigned against the Jubilee Alliance in Luo Nyanza have started warming up to the Jubilee Alliance in what they suspect could be a scheme to get top government jobs.
The people are saying, let President-elect Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, Excellency Deputy President-elect Honorable William Ruto, and other elected leaders, and even not elected leaders, to come to Nyanza.
there is actually no vacuum in Jubilee Luo Nyanza for other people to jostle and think that they are actually coming to grab.
Interestingly, leaders from former Western Province who campaigned for seats under the Jubilee Alliance and lost also want to be considered for top government positions.
We decided to stick with TNL as the entire Jubilee in Western Province. It is therefore very, very contemptuous of everybody for these other parties that never saw our foresight to come on board and be given opportunity.
They should know that there were people or women who are completely behind the TNA, and they work very hard, spend a lot of money, and abuses. Therefore, they deserve to have a place in the government.
They express fears that leading lies in the Amani coalition, who have warmed up to the Jubilee Alliance and even signed post-election deal, could be given first preference. It will be interesting to see how Uhuru and Ruto makes a balancing act as they bend over backwards to accommodate in government those who lost the elections. Will they break from the norm that characterized past regimes?
I don't think losing shows some kind of incompetence. It only shows some pattern of affiliation, very much familiar with the Kenyan type of politics. But we've seen these leaders, once appointed to various positions, perform and deliver services extremely very well to the people.
Patrick Amimo, KTN, Saturday Night.
Patrick Amimo with the cabinet headache really for the Jubilee coalition. Let's bring in Ferdinand Omondi, our Coast Region reporter. Ferdi, thank you for staying with me. You've looked at the story by Patrick Amimo and the expectations of Kenyans even as they wait for the naming of that cabinet. From the Coastal Region, Ferdi, what are they expecting? What is the talk of town? Who do they want to get what post?
Well, just like in Luo Nyanza, the people here voted for, actually Nyanza as a whole, the people here in the Coast Region voted overwhelmingly for the Code Coalition. About, I think, 96%, should I say, are all Code seats. Only 4 members of parliament, if my memory is right: Lamu East, Lamu West, Kinango, where there's Gonzirai, and Taveta, where Dr. Naomi Shaban. Everywhere else is Code, and of course also we have UDF sneaking in the governor again in Lamu constituency. Everywhere else it is Code. Nevertheless, there are some big names here, people who are very respected, who were in the Jubilee coalition but lost their seats. And mostly would say not because they're not popular, but because they suffered as a result of the Code wave. The most obvious name that perhaps comes to the fore is that of Najib Balala, the Republican Congress Party leader, was one of the key members of the Jubilee coalition. There was UTNA, URP, RC, and of course NAC. So Balala, I should expect that, having lost the senatorial race here to a worthy opponent in Hassan Omar, and it was a very close race, he should be expecting to get something. He was a former minister. He has tourism docket, a very healthy record behind him. People loved him, and I think in order to stem the wave of people here to remain relevant, and you've been seeing how much he walks next to the president-elect ever since the results were announced. Perhaps he's telling me, hey, you guy, I think that seat is a good one for me, in a manner of speaking. So I would expect he wouldn't mind if he's taken back there to the tourism docket, where he did pretty well, or there's something else he's eyeing. The other person who also is expected widely to be rewarded is Tirao Ali Makwere, or Z Papa, as he likes referring to himself. He lost the seat there, tried to run for governor in Kwale, lost to Boy Juma Boy. And now the first visit that Uhuru Kenyatta made to course after the elections, it was Tirao who came with him and welcomed him. And you know, he was a member of URP, you could say a URP appointment here, so he should be eyeing one of those plum seats, if you should call them that. And the other people I could also think about right here is the religious groups. You remember the CAPK coming forth to say that Code Coalition did not honor their pledges, so they pledged their support to the Jubilee Coalition. Sheikh Khalifa, who is the leader of the Council of Imams and Preachers of Kenya, should be expecting something. I am very sure about that. The other person who we also know will be eyeing it from a religious angle is Sheikh Juma Ngao, who sometimes has been dismissed as a court jester by the manner in which he behaved during the election period. He was very deep in the Code Coalition, then suddenly last minute he was in Jubilee singing praises of Uhuru Kenyatta, and after all the gesturing he did, I don't think he was just doing that for fun. He should be expecting that that should be rewarded in a way or another. Linda?
Fadi Omondi speaking to us from Mombasa. Ferdinand, thank you so much for staying with me. Back before I let you go, really, do you think that the coastal region would get a satisfaction, quote-unquote, feeling if they get one of their own getting one of the cabinet positions?
I think they would be satisfied. You know, what the Jubilee Coalition and President-elect has actually done after it was confirmed, the leader, even before it was confirmed by the Supreme Court as the duly elected president, he came to the coast region, his first ever visit. And he's reaching out to people who did not vote for him. Even the Deputy President-elect William Ruto said, you know, I know you people did not vote for me. That's when they came to visit the projects in Kwale there. You did not vote for us, but we shall make sure that we form an all-inclusive government, so that in the next 5 years we will work for you, that in the next 5 years you vote for us. So I fully expect that there will be quite a few appointments from the coast region. Already a lady-nominated senator from the coast region, TNA, has already gone to the house over there. So I'm expecting 1 or 2 appointments to be in the consideration. We also have Nomi Shaban, who has been touted as a woman. She is a member of parliament as well. But, you know, perhaps for a ministerial position, the cabinet position, she might consider scaling up, if you will call it that. Though the risk there is that might mean that Jubilee might lose the Taveta seat, because it's a very close race and that area is largely considered cord. So if they play that card, they must devise a good strategy to retain that seat, and that might also include dangling some cards. I was leaving one other name, Linda, that is Anania Mwaboza, another URP appointment, vied in Kisauni, lost, but he was formerly been an assistant minister. He knows what power is like. He stayed in Jubilee coalition. He should be expecting something as well.
Okay, Ferdinand Omondi speaking to us from Mombasa. Fadi, thank you very much. Ferdinand Omondi giving us an insight of what the coastal region expects, even as the country awaits the naming of the cabinet. Now, Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka may end up in the 11th Parliament to play the critical role of opposition leaders. The Code Coalition is plotting to springboard the two back in the spotlight by asking some of its members to relinquish their seats for the two Code principals. The most likely casualties are among the nominated members of Parliament and Senate. Samogina reports on the attempt to give the two Code leaders a second lease of life after the presidential race defeat.
The Code Coalition has mooted a strategy to cushion its leaders, Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, from a 5-year political cold. A planned soft landing for the two is already in the works to have them lead opposition in Parliament and or in the Senate. A plot hatched at the parliamentary group meeting convened at Prime Minister Raila Odinga's current home. After nominating its members to Parliament and the Senate from its party list submitted to IEBC, CORD is contending to ask the remaining members listed on the party list to resign from the list. Essentially, the extra members will be standby members for nomination in case of any eventuality to sitting parliamentarians or senators. After the resignations, this would mean CORD will have to submit another party list to the Electoral Commission with amendments. But the coalition has a legal technicality to unravel if withdrawing party list from the IEBC is viable legally. If granted to withdraw the party list, sources say the list will be amended to include the names of Prime Minister Raila Odinga and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka. This to pave way to asking its members in Parliament or Senate to quit their positions, essentially to be filled by the two leaders breathing a second lease of life in their political careers, either as elected or nominated members. ODM nominated 3 members to Parliament and 4 to the Senate. Among the nominated parliamentarians are Raila's elder brother Oburu Oginga, Isaac Mwaura and Zuleka Hassan Juma, while Janet Ongera, Elizabeth Ongoro, Halima Adil Mahamud and Agnes Nzani are nominated senators, one of whom will be prevailed upon to relinquish their seat for the Prime Minister.
Yesu alisulubishwa miaka 2013 iliyopita, lakini Yesu alikufa, yuko hai.
Meanwhile, Wiper will be looking at Bishop Robert Mutemi Mutua in Parliament to cede his seat for the Vice President to be nominated in the upper house. But reports indicate the Bishop is not keen on ceding power. Equally, Judith Acheng Sinjeni in the Senate is another likely option Wiper might pursue to leave a leeway for Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka if he is to act as opposition leader in the Senate. accord is to hold a second meeting next week before Parliament's first sitting on the 16th of April to crystallize on their options and chart a way forward. Already, accord members had begun propping themselves for the opposition seat, key among them Budalangi MP Babu Namwamba. Samugina, KTN.
Watching KTN Saturday Night Live, thank you so much for staying with us. Of course, Samugina there with a story that we have been following on for a few days now. Let's bring in Councillor Elizabeth Kangepe. She is a councillor in the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for joining us on KTN tonight. You're a Kenyan, you grew up in Kenya. How did you end up being a councillor in the UK?
Well, I think if you're talking about politics, I did not start joining politics in UK. Already before I left Kenya, I was working with the Electoral Commission of Kenya. I was a returning officer. I've worked very closely with the Electoral Commission of Kenya. And being a head teacher, because I was a head teacher before I left, I think you know, teacher actually kind of so much into politics. I knew there was something in me, and Obama too was an inspiration for me. So when I went to the UK, my background as a teacher, I was working with the Kenya Scouts. And that exposed me also to so much leadership, because I was one of the leaders, the Girl Guide leaders. So there was so much.
So it was an easy flow into
it.
How long did it take you?
Well, when I went to the UK, I interacted with the local community through the Scouts and as a teacher too. And I was helping actually the immigrants to interact with the locals there as a teacher. I really became kind of like the liaison person for them. So I also happened to have met the local MP, who for whatever reason, she just loved me and she wanted me to be helping her in the office. So I kind of got so much into politics, and you know, she thought I could be a voice for the people.
So you were in the UK when Kenyans were voting for the next president. Of course, right now we have President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta. And a lot of the sentiments that we have received is that Kenya has matured democratically, putting in mind what happened in 2007. Is that a sentiment you share?
I do. I think one of my congratulatory note, I did say that Kenya has come of age. Kenya has really matured, because I think there was so much stake, especially the Western world. People did not expect Kenya really to come out clean or peaceful like we did. And I think we've really come of age where when we win or we lose, we really accept whatever happens. And this has been a real great move for the Kenyans. We really appreciate what has happened, and that is what I mean by we're mature enough now. We can understand that when we go into politics, it's a game of lose or win, and whoever will loses, whoever wins, we go for it, and you know, life continues.
Exactly. When you go into politics, it's a game of lose and win, and our level of maturity is dictated by how we treat the people who win and the people who lose. Of course, Prime Minister Raila Odinga lost this particular election, and there has been a lot of talk really of how this whole thing has played out. You are from the UK, and Gordon Brown lost his seat as well as the Prime Minister. How is he being treated in the United Kingdom? And relate that with Kenya. Really, Raila Odinga may not have won the presidential seat, but he has played a critical role in the country. How are these men and women who have played critical roles in countries in Africa, how are they supposed to be treated?
Well, if I look back at, Gordon Brown happens to be a leader of my party. I'm a member of the Labour Party, and really it's good to look at what role one has played, or what one has given to the country. Well, I do respect, with all due respect, I respect Honorable Raila Odinga for whatever he's done, but I believe it also depends on how one perceives. When I lose, for example now, when I'm campaigning, if I lose really, I should go in and consider and work with the people. And I think that is very, very important. And then actually, the people's perception depends on the individual, you know. My way, what I tell my people after I lose or I win, what I tell my people, we really determine how they treat me. So I think, well, Honorable Raila Odinga has done a lot for Kenya, and with all due respect, he's lost. But I believe he deserves all that respect also, and he also, in turn, deserves to respect the incoming government, and there we go. We will work together, we move together. That's exactly what's happening in the UK. You know, we do respect Gordon Brown so much. He played a vital role, but there came a time when really things didn't work out for him. And so really we respect him for the part that he played for the Labour Party, but a time came when we felt we needed a change. and we got a new person, we got a younger person, and we're doing okay. We do respect him, we do invite him for our meetings, we do invite him sometimes to come and give us talks, and I think that is the mature way of approaching this, because I believe even Honorable Raila Odinga has got something that he can come and give, you know.
Because
so
he has vast experience.
That cohesion is very, very important, because at the end of the day, we are all Kenyans.
And he has a huge following, so to speak, because it's a very close race.
He has. I believe, well, can I say as a politician, there is that ill feeling of when I lose, that acceptance. It's not easy coming. It's not an easy one. So I can share the sentiments, and I know how when one loses, I can share, and I know how they feel. Okay. But I believe, you know, it's okay. They can work together.
Right. So right now we have a devolved system of government. Of course, we have governors, senators, women representatives, and all. But just days after they were sworn in, some of these men and women are actually asking for pay hikes. What's going through your mind when you hear such stories?
I'm sure they wouldn't like to hear my sentiments, but I believe work fast, ask for the pay. What are we paying for? Really, they should go show us that they are ready to work, show us what they are doing, and then the pay will come, the pay rise will come. The people will not even struggle for it. But at the moment, I believe these people should first of all take their offices, start working, show the people what they are doing, and then start demanding for the pay rise, really. And I believe Kenya at the moment, where we are economically, we can move ahead, but I think they should not be asking for these huge packages. You know, go and work fast. That is why the people have voted for you. You are a servant of the people. Money should not come fast. But this will not go so well when people start asking before you have even gone to the office, and you start asking for an increase in your pay package. Really, I don't think it's the right thing.
Yeah, because the sentiment really is they knew how much they were going to get when they were getting into this. If they knew this was not enough, they shouldn't have gotten into this whole political race. But is this a headache you face in the UK in terms of pay packs? Because the other day we saw David Cameron actually missing a seat on a train and comfortably reading his paper. And your political leaders, how are they paid? Is it a headache you share?
First of all, can I say, as a councillor, what I get is an allowance. It's not a job. I'm still working as a teacher. And before I apply to...
So you work as a councillor and a teacher?
Yes.
Okay.
Before I go for that, before I apply to be voted in for as a councillor, I have to go through the paperwork and know how much allowance I'm getting. And I believe every leader knows that. So before you go in, you already know how much money you're going to get, whether it's an allowance, whether it's a pay. And I believe maybe later, you know, with time, they could get the pay rise. But I believe at the moment, these people should not be asking for a pay rise. Really, that will not go well with the public, and it will not go well even for me. I believe they should first of all go and work, because by the time they took the oath, by the time they took the offices, they knew what they were expecting.
All right, finally, before I let you go, you're a Kenyan, you went to the UK, you got into politics. What sort of reception did you get?
Well, like any other place when you're a foreigner, it's not that easy. But can I say in Kenya, and in UK, and I believe that's where we are heading to in Kenya, when it comes to for example, for the politics, you know, councillors, the government gives in there are three councillors in a ward, and the priority is one seat should be a woman. The next is at least we should consider a black and ethnic minority, and then the rest can follow. So it's not that easy, but at least I had the 2 ticks when I went in, because one, I'm a woman, two, I was a member, or I am a member of the black and ethnic minority, which I believe is very, very inclusive, and I believe that's where we are heading in Kenya. But there is one issue that I'd like to comment about women taking posts. I believe in Kenya, the women, we're not coming out strong. We really need to come up strong, and really, we have what it takes. We can do it. You know, and I'm challenging our women now to really wake up. We have it, we can do it. And I believe the government will also play a part and include the women in the senior offices, be it nominations, be it in the elective posts. Women also need to be considered.
Which ward do you represent in the United Kingdom?
I represent Paslow's ward, that is in Buckingham Dagenham.
Paslow's ward?
Yes, that is in London Borough of Buckingham Dagenham.
Elizabeth Kangethe, thank you so much for sparing time to speak to KTN. Elizabeth Kangethe is the councillor in the United Kingdom. Right there, she has told you she represents Paslow's ward. Yeah, in the United Kingdom. Thank you for sparing time to speak to us. Of course, making it very clear there that women in Kenya are really not taking up the political positions. That is a position they need to take up as they come. And now to our daily update on the flood situation around the country. And tonight we take you to the northeastern part of Kenya, where travelers have been left stranded after the recent heavy rains rendered roads impassable. Willis Angira has details of that story.
Even as meteorologists warn of heavy rains still to come, residents of northeastern province are already feeling the effects of the bad weather, as majority of their roads have been rendered impassable. Having received complaints from the residents, KTN embarked on a journey to establish the status of the roads in the area. Mandera is a town located near the Kenya-Somali border and hundreds of kilometers from Garissa, a tiring and torturous journey that takes days. Along the Garissa-Mandera road, various public transport vehicles have been stuck for days and could still be here if the rains do not subside. Majority of those bearing the brunt are women and children. Hasna Muhammad is one of those stuck here. She is on a journey from Nairobi and doesn't know when she will reach her destination. According to her, the transport problems today are only a tip of the iceberg. Many more women lose their lives in case of complications at childbirth in this area, as they cannot reach the hospital in time due to the bad state of the roads. The stranded passengers made their way to nearby villages in search of food, as they had run out of supplies that they had carried for the journey. The drivers too are unhappy about the state of the roads.
Mvua inanyesha, chini maji, juu unanyesha. Sasa mizigo tunatarumsha, bado tunabandisha tena. Tunatoka hapa, tena tunasonga kidogo, tunatarumsha, tunabandisha, shida.
These bad roads have been blamed for the spate of accidents along this route, and even though the rains could be a blessing for nomads and pastoralists, it is a curse to vehicle owners and travelers alike. Willis Angira, KTN Saturday Night.
Right, the 47 county governors completed the week-long induction yesterday in Naivasha, with the issue of salaries review and county budgets dominating the agenda. But even as they're up in arms demanding a pay hike, county residents want nothing less but better and improved services. Tonight we look at the county of Isiolo, a county that has been brought down to its knees by insecurity, poverty and a poor road network, leaving the region as one of the most marginalized areas in the country. Angel Katusia with that story.
A lot is happening in connection with the devolved system of government. Elected county governors are accusing the government of sabotaging the system. Governors are also up in arms complaining over delayed release of money and also want a review of their salaries. But this seems to be the least of the expectations of county residents whose hopes are pegged on the county government. Isiolo County, a mention of this county brings memories of insecurity cases tagged along with frequent cattle rustling, a county where residents have been forced to arm themselves to protect themselves from attacks by neighboring communities. This as long is and still remains a challenge that the newly elected Isiolo County Governor will have to tackle as a matter of priority to ensure safety of residents and make Isiolo County a safe haven for development. Most residents here are calling for discernment, equal distribution of resources such as water points and grazing land, and largely creation of a peaceful coexistence with neighbors.
Tunataka at least tujengewe soko mzuri, kama hii vibanda yetu isikuwe ya mbao, itengenezwe hata iwe ya mawe, ndio tuwe tunafaidika.
Insecurity aside, perennial drought in the region due to inadequate rains is another headache for residents. Year in, year out, residents lose thousands of their livestock to harsh climate. Farm activities are almost impossible here due to water shortage. Residents want water provision to be top in the list of the governor's agenda. Isiolo County, which consists of Isiolo District, Garbatula District and Merit District, has no proper road network that can connect all the districts efficiently. Residents say it has been hard for them to transact business between the three districts due to the state of the road network.
Hapa kukinyesha barabara hata ya kuelekea kwa DC na drainage ya town yote ni mbaya sana. na naomba serikali kwa hii county government itusaidie kwa hali na mali, na hii barabara yote iwe safi sana na drainage ikuwe mzuri.
The residents also want intensive education as high illiteracy levels and cultural practices like early marriages and female genital mutilation have in the past affected the county's development. Angel Katuse, KTN, Saturday Night.
Let's stay with the county challenges, and governors from counties prone to cattle rustling in the North Rift have agreed to work together and eradicate the vice that has adversely affected the region. The county leaders observed that cattle rustling is fueled by the need to revenge and promised to engage elders, police and other stakeholders to deal with the problem. They also challenged the Commission on Revenue Allocation to set more funds for regions affected by cattle rustling as one way of dealing with that problem.
We need to tackle this matter of cattle rustling once and for all. We need to have a common approach in dealing with the matter.
Vision 2030 cannot be achieved without the resources that have been identified in our areas. It is upon us as county governments to work in collaboration with the national government to make sure that the problems of cattle rustling insecurity is eliminated and we can be able to develop our areas, and then jointly with national government we can be able to exploit the natural resources to not only benefit those areas but to benefit the entire country as a whole.
Police in Kwale have intercepted 18 sacks of bang worth about 2 million shillings. According to Kwale Acting Deputy OCPD Justin Mureithi, police on patrol intercepted the cargo while it was on transit along the Kwale-Kinango Road in what is the biggest bang catch in recent times. Ferdinand Omondi reports.
Sacks upon sacks of bang on display at the Kwale police station, the product of a successful operation conducted last night. The police who were on patrol acted on a tip-off that there were cars possibly transporting contraband along the Kwale-Kinango Road.
They moved to action by laying an ambush outside the outskirts of the town. At around 2 a.m. they managed to intercept 2 motor vehicles, one a Toyota Wish Saloon and a Nissan vehicle.
The 2 vehicles were directed to the Kwale police station where the sacks were scrutinized and weighed. It was a load of 18 sacks of pure bang weighing 700 kilograms. Police estimate its value at 2 million shillings. 4 men were arrested and are currently assisting police with investigations. 2 others are said to have escaped.
At the moment we may not be able to tell where it was destined, but we are likely to get that information as we continue with the interrogation. But the nearest major town is Mombasa.
It has also not been established where the bank came from, although police are expected to explore the possibility that the bank could have been smuggled into Kenya from Tanzania via the Lunga border. The law enforcers also thanked the public for giving information that led to the arrests and are now urging for more of the same. The coast region is notorious for drug abuse, with at least 20,000 youth affected. Bang is the most abused drug in Kwale. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Kwale.
A water shortage is looming in Kisumu City after the Lake Victoria South Water Services Board shut down the city's main supply yesterday due to outstanding debts. The Kisumu Water and Sewerage Company that manages the city's supply via inlets on Lake Victoria is said to have accumulated debts amounting to millions of shillings owed to the board. Policemen have been guarding the city's main water inlet, ostensibly to keep workers away from the facility. KTN's Fred Omulo has details of this story.
Main water pumping and treatment facility that relies on Lake Victoria remains quiet after a water services board official turned up yesterday morning brandishing a letter seeking to shut the supply over an outstanding debt. Sources at the facility located in Dunga said a fight nearly broke out between employees here and the official, forcing the police to intervene. In the letter, the board requests Kiwasco to pay up an outstanding monthly debt of 2.5 million shillings while providing an explanation of how it will settle 12.5 million shillings in arrears. Speaking with KTN on phone, Kiwasco Managing Director Engineer David Onyango said he has not received any official communication from the board and is still in the dark about the reason behind the shutdown. The water and sewerage company serves 60% of Kisumu's 400,000 strong population and also handles sewer waste disposal. An acute water shortage is imminent if pumping does not resume by Sunday. From Kisumu City, I am Fred Omulo.
Now, retired President Daniel Arap Moi has lauded the American and British governments for their support in improving the Kenya's healthcare sector. Speaking at Kabarak University, where he presided over the free health screening day conducted by university in conjunction with Pan-African Health Foundation, Moi said the local community has benefited immensely from the free screening, as some of them might have been living with undetected heart ailments. British High Commissioner Dr. Christine Turner, who was also at the screening, said the British government was supporting numerous programs in the health sector. According to the latest statistics, 50 out of every 1,000 students in Kenya suffer from undiagnosed heart ailments, and 23% will not finish school.
Both countries have helped Kenya tremendously in attending ordinary people in a way which cannot be recognized or realized by many people.
You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are taking a short break, but this is what's coming up ahead. The shared business secret, that is tortoises for exports. You're watching Saturday Night Live. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, they are slow and mysterious and make unconventional pets. Yet a businessman in Namanga is making a killing from breeding and exporting tortoise for sale. Though this may sound wildly exciting, a tortoise farmer goes through the same paces as any other farmer, save for a few unique ones given the nature of the creatures in question. And as KTN's Wilkie Sanyabwa now reports, the rewards are enough compensation.
In stories, tortoises are often depicted as slow, shy creatures, but then again the tortoises in those tales are often old and worlds apart from those that Hussein Jaizan is rearing at his farm in Namanga, Kajiado County. On this little patch, the older tortoises stroll and bask while the younger ones take a dip. Jaizan keeps tortoises for commercial purposes. He is raising African leopard tortoises as declared by the markings on their shells. The number of baby tortoises he gets every year depends on the number of eggs laid by the tortoises he keeps. A tortoise begins to lay eggs when it is about 25 years old.
Kwa kuzaa inatakaga mayai. A minimum of 5, maximum of 20 per season.
The mating season runs from September to April, running into the hatching season, which starts in February and ends in September.
Kwa hivyo mayai ya kobe huwa inachukua 9 months, but it depends with the weather changes.
A year after they hatch, farm workers here will pack hundreds of the tortoises in little boxes and ship them off to countries where demand for them is high.
At times you can produce about 600, 500, 400. It will depend on the number of production of eggs. Our market mainly is in Europe, in Asia, Southeast Asia.
Tortoises can grow to weigh between 35 and 40 kilograms and can live until the age of 80, but it takes a lot of work to get to this point. The tortoises here consume 4 sacks of vegetables every day.
Kales, carrots, and besides treatment, we have to treat them periodically, we have to deworm them, we have to supplement their dietary with calcium and vitamins and veterinary services from doctors.
And while they carry their homes around with them, they also need protection from the elements. Jayzan often receives inquiries as to how one can begin to rear them, but this requires a special license from the Kenya Wildlife Service. And this is the reason why Jayzan is one of only a handful of individuals who rear the tortoises for sale in Kenya. And the returns are worth it. Each tortoise sells for thousands of shillings to individuals abroad who place orders.
What you see in terms of development of the farm, the pen, all is based on what we sell abroad. So I would say yes, there is a benefit. Otherwise, if there wasn't, I think we wouldn't be where we are today.
And this is why, on his sunny patch in Namanga, like the tortoises he raises, Jayzan is plodding along patiently, waiting to reap the returns of his unique investment. Wilkis Anyapwa, KTN, Saturday Night.
They're very cute when they're tiny. That story by Wilkis Anyapwa, very interesting. Now, this image of the late Princess Diana is a constant reminder of international campaign to ban landmines. Many innocent people have been maimed and killed, more so in war-torn countries like our neighboring Somalia, leading to calls for the mines to be cleared. However, there are over 100 million landmines still believed to be in active use around the world. And given the current clearance rate, it would take over 1,000 years to rid the world of landmines. Kasim Mohammed reports on the efforts to raise awareness on mines in Somalia as the country reemerges from decades of civil war.
Dealing with the explosive remnants of conflict, this team is on a mission to eliminate the threat of mines and explosives. Only this time, it's a demonstration exercise that was held in a Sekiwa compound in Mogadishu. In line with the International Day of Mines Awareness, these clearance operators keenly followed the international laid-down procedures to minimize harm when dealing with the hidden danger. The presence of landmines in Somalia can be traced back to the conflicts the country has witnessed over the years, from the Ethiopian-Somali War that lasted between 1977 to 1978 to the 2 decades of lawlessness after the fall of the Siad Barre regime in 1991. The Somali government, aided by the African Union peacekeepers AMISOM, has forced the militant group Al-Shabaab out of Mogadishu and most parts of south-central Somalia. The group is, however, reported to be laying explosives before vacating its positions. Improvised explosive devices, commonly known as IEDs, still pose grave danger whenever the Somali government forces and AMISOM gain control of new areas. According to the United Nations Mine Action Service, nearly every community in south-central Somalia suffers from a degree of explosive remnants of war contamination, and a few have the support and capacity to deal with these threats. The United Nations Mines Action has been training clearance operators. Since its inception in Somalia, they have trained over 1,000 Somali National Police, AMISOM, and humanitarian staff. The UN body has also trained 12 medics to deal with landmine-related incidents and cleared over 22,000 mines across Somalia. While this demining demonstration is one step forward, this exercise is a clear reminder the effects of minefields linger decades after the last bomb is dropped. Kasim Mohammed, KTN.
Kasim Mohammed there, looking at the efforts that are being put in place to clear landmines in the entire world. That is the story from Somalia. Let's now focus our attention on other stories that have been making headlines all over the world. We start with our neighbor, South Africa, and Nelson Mandela has been discharged from hospital after treatment for pneumonia. That is according to South Africa's government. In a statement, the government says there had been a sustained and gradual improvement in his general condition. The 94-year-old was admitted on 27th March for recurring infection of the lungs and had fluid drained from them. In South Sudan has restarted oil production more than a year after it was halted by disputes with its neighbor Sudan. The two countries, which formally split in 2011, agreed to resume transfers of oil across the border last month. The resumption comes as part of efforts to avoid an all-out conflict over oil revenues and border disputes. Now, a former chief of the Navy in Guinea-Bissau has appeared in a U.S. court on charges linked to cocaine trafficking. Rear Admin Jose Americo Bubo was flown to New York after he was detained while traveling on a yacht in the East Atlantic. ADM Manchuto is described by the U.S. as a kingpin in Guinea-Bissau's huge drug trade. Elsewhere, talks between world powers and Iran on its nuclear program have ended without agreement, with the EU saying their position remains far apart. Over 2 days of talks in Almaty, Iran was asked to give up work on its most sensitive nuclear activities in return for an easing of sanctions. Iran said it was up to the world powers to demonstrate willingness to take confidence-building steps. So those are the top stories all over the world. In just a few minutes, Sadiq Shaban will have details of what happened in sports.
Very well, good evening and welcome to KTN Sports Today. My name is Sadiq Shaban. Football Kenya Federation Cup champions Gor Mahia were tossed out of the CAF Champions League after failing to score 4 goals today in the second leg of the championship. The barren draw against Egyptian side ENPPI means that Gor Mahia's campaign has effectively ended at home.
They came to the Nyayo National Stadium in the thousands chanting Gor Mahia, never mind the 3-0 goal deficit the team was chasing. Gor Mahia got the ball rolling with David Owino the busier in the opening exchanges as he found Kevin Omondi and Ramasalim but could not find the back of the net. Buoyed by their 3-0 goal advantage, ANP clawed back some ball possession, with Mohamed Nassif and Abdallah Shahat opening up the Kogalo defense but in vain. NP made marauding attacks up front, and when they could not unlock the Gor Mahia defense marshaled by Solomon Nasio and David Owino, they sought to long shots to try and beat Jerry Monyango at goal. Ramasalim and Dan Sorenkuma could just not lock the NP defense as Logarusic's side looked for the elusive goals. Gor Mahia's forwards were muscled out by the tall Egyptian players, forcing them to play in the midfield as the teams took a breather. Agitated fans almost caused a scare, but the Kogalo marshals were able to contain the situation as tempers began to flare with goals drying up. Gor Mahia had a better second half, with last year's hero Sorenkuma the brighter of the strikers, only that his shooting boots deserted him when it mattered most. NP sat back and allowed Gor Mahia a lion's share of ball possession, but could not trouble Ahmed Mohamed at goal. Despite the elimination, they are packed full of lessons for Kogalo.
We played against the club who is the current champion of the Egyptian Premier League. Egyptian Premier League is top 5 league in Africa. Our Kenyan Premier League is maybe, I don't know, 30 or 30, but doesn't matter. I couldn't say nothing bad, just we played hard out. We need a bit more individual quality. If we have better individual quality on the front, maybe some of those chances will go in.
The size of the football clubs are measured by using certain measurements. One of them is the financial muscle. I don't think if you compare our financial muscle with the ENPPI, it will be fair to compare the two teams. We are not in the same league.
Having more friendly with the North African teams, the more we are more friendly with them, we'll get used to their game plan and with their beating.
Logarusic has now set his sights on clinching the Tusker Premier League to atone for this year's continental failures. Reporting for KTN Weekend Prime Sports, I'm Hassan Juma.
The summit of the Tusker Premier League will remain unchanged at least until after the outcome of tomorrow's match between Bandari and Thika United at the Mbaraki Stadium in Mombasa, after league leaders KCB failed to bank enough points today. King Tom Olaba this past week failed to capitalize on home ground advantage despite clear-cut chances during the game. KCB could share the top spot with Thika United, who play Bandari in Mombasa tomorrow. If Thika United win, they will return to the summit of the league, albeit with inferior goal difference. Karoturi Sports will play Mhoron Youth tomorrow, while Sony Sugar will host Sofapaka in Awendo. Mathare United will be at Nyayo National Stadium against visiting Western Stima. Let me show you the highlights of what happened today in the Enterprise Cup final, where Mwamba RFC quenched their 7-year thirst with a vengeful victory over Menengai Oil Nakuru RFC to lift their first trophy of the season. Look at the highlights of this particular game that was played this afternoon at the Rugby Union of East African grounds, where Nakuru were beaten 15-10 in a closely contested tie during that game. The match came alive after 15 minutes when veteran Tito Oduk opened the scoring for Mwamba, drilling home a penalty as Mwamba led 3-0, a lead they held on to the interval. Within 3 minutes of the second half, Mwamba had gone 8-0 up when Micah Gavis scored at the corner after his side took the game deep into Nakuru's territory. But Nakuru reduced the deficit through Javan Murari's goal. Nakuru then took the lead when Murai converted a try for a 10-8 lead. But Nakuru had discounted on the presence of the ghost walker Dennis Ombachi, who scooped on a loose ball and raced 45 meters to score under the posts. Lavina Sego converted for a 15-10 lead that remained to the whistle, and with it, Mwamba scooped their 4th Enterprise Cup triumph, adding to titles they won in 1985, 1986, and in 2006. Veteran rally driver Ian Duncan stormed to the leaderboard of the KCB Mobi Banking Rally in Nyeri this afternoon after a day full of drama. 9 competitive stages await the drivers on the second day tomorrow. Nyeri town came alive as turbocharged machines zoomed past the streets of the popular central Kenya region as the KCB Kenya National Rally Championships returned to Nyeri for the second consecutive year. With 2 late withdrawals in the day, 54 drivers descended upon Kafiroini Stadium for the spectator stage that attracted an estimated 5,000 people. Road sweeper Peter Hossi surrendered the lead immediately after this section as drivers regained their speed and rhythm after a 3-month hiatus. However, it is unclear if Ugandan rally driver Jess Mangat will continue with the rally tomorrow after getting involved in a road accident en route a competitive section.
One of the rally cars was involved in an accident with somebody trying to overtake on a bend and rammed into the rally car of Jess Mangat. There are no casualties, and we're trying to see whether Jess Mangat will be able to get the car back on the road to continue tomorrow.
Veteran driver Ian Duncan clocked 10 minutes and 52 seconds after 2 stages to lead Baldev Chaga, Alistair Kavanagh and Jasprit Chote. The second day on Sunday as drivers eye 9 possibly dusty, rough and twisty stages in Nyeri after 1 stage was cancelled due to safety considerations. Well, while Arsenal claimed a 2-1 win over West Brom in Bundesliga in Germany, Bayern Munich secured their 23rd title with 6 games to play. I don't know if that will be the situation on Monday when Linde's team plays